can't see me, you Stevie. Wondering how I reach more evolutions than Eevee and make it look easy.
What is up, Earth's mightiest subscribers? It's your boy Ernie, the Blerd without fear. Welcome back to the channel. Also, welcome to the best comics this week, the show where I'm going to be talking about the best comics that I read this week, and those comics can range anywhere from Marvel, DC, Image, Boom Studios, Dark Horse, Dynamite, whoever. We're also going to have our fuck shit segment. We're also going to be talking about the Indie Comics Corner, and we're also going to have, at the end of the video, the pull box report. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into the best comics this week. First up is going to be One World Under Doom #2. This is, honestly, I think this is a series that keeps on giving. You know, One World Under Doom, Doom has taken over the world. He has defeated all his enemies. He has destroyed fascism and Nazism, gender inequality, and has given universal basic income to the masses, as well as universal healthcare and free education. And now he's given us open borders. Now, I know that's a scary term for a lot of people. In this particular instance, Doom is not talking about open borders for just America. He's talking about open borders for everywhere. He's saying no more borders. They're just imaginary lines. If you live in Italy and you just want to up and go to Australia and just live there permanently, boom, done. It's a wrap. If you, for whatever reason, you live in, let's say, a third world country and you want to just move to anywhere else because you just want to have a better life for your family, it's all legal here, baby. It's like the one thing that Doom has done thus far that has actually got a mixed reaction from the people at large. In this, the Fantastic Four, and really the Avengers and all the other good guys as a whole, they are made to look foolish because they don't know how to fight Dr. Doom. And rightfully so. The guy is just doing good work. He is actually creating what, you know, one of my favorite political phrases is causing good trouble, and I love to see it. But the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, more specifically the Fantastic Four here, because they are focused this issue, they are trying to stop Doom, and at every turn, they keep finding evidence that is to the contrary of everything they believe Dr. Doom is up to. They want to believe Dr. Doom is up to his worst. And honestly, I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know how this is going to end, but at this point, I actually think it would be preferable if by the time we get to the end of this saga, I actually hope Dr. Doom is not up to anything nefarious at all. I mean, it's Dr. Doom. He's always going to be up to something nefarious, but I actually think this story would be so much more impactful if when we get to the end of it and Dr. Doom is really just trying to do the right thing all along. That's it. He's kind of said as much. But also what I found interesting here is that, you know, well, yes, you know, the Fantastic Four, they're getting dunked on this issue severely. They're getting dunked on even harder because Dr. Doom has now garnered the attention and not necessarily so much the support, but something very close to it from what is arguably the one person on Earth he actually gives a shit about, and that's Valeria Richards, the daughter of Reed Richards and Sue Storm. And what's crazy is that even she, one of the smartest people on the face of the planet, even she has to recognize that while Doom is saying a lot of crazy shit, he's not wrong. I mean, she is still trying to check him and make sure that he is telling the truth in all things, as Valeria is wont to do. However, I always found it interesting that Valeria has always been able, you know, for the most part, to trust Dr. Doom. She generally expects him to do the things that he says he's going to do and not do the things he says he's not going to do. And Dr. Doom, I'm not going to say that I've been just keeping absolute tabs on this, but for the most part, Dr. Doom has a pretty solid track record with Valeria Richards. And in this, he even has her kind of like, man, I don't know, man. I think he's on to something. Like, she doesn't want to say it, but I mean, she's basically right there. And Dr. Doom also does the one thing Reed Richards has been incapable of doing on any meaningful level since the Fantastic Four made their debut in Marvel Comics back in the 60s. He is able to make Ben Grimm the ever-loving blue-eyed thing. He's able to turn Ben Grimm into the ever-loving blue-eyed regular man, something that actually terrifies Ben. And this is huge because for those who have not been keeping up, yes, that has long been a thing that the Thing has wanted to do, is be normal. And as a matter of fact, it's something that has actually been addressed multiple times over the decades of history that the Fantastic Four has been a thing. You know, this is something that, you know, it even goes all the way back to how it caused a rift between Reed and Ben back during Marvel Superhero Secret Wars back in 1984. And, you know, how Ben finally becoming human again made him leave the team because he was like, okay, I get to go be happy now. And then there's also been various other points where he's been able to be turned back to normal, and sometimes it was for good reasons, sometimes it was for bad reasons, but it was always something that was temporary. And even during the Hickman run, that was actually one of the things that the Future Foundation had figured out, something that Reed could not even figure out himself, but his own daughter, Valeria, was able to cook this whole thing up alongside the rest of the Future Foundation, mind you. But she was able to come up with a way to make sure that Ben Grimm could turn back to human, at least for a limited amount of time once a year. And Reed is yet to be able to even so much as do that. Even Reed was shocked that that was able to be pulled off. But now by this point, Thing actually likes being the Thing. He doesn't care if he's normal or not. He's accepted who he is. He's living his life. He has children now. Granted, they're adopted children. Married Alicia Masters. Everything is fine now. And now he has a chance of being normal again, but this time, not on his own terms. Next up is going to be Thundercats Lost. And for those who are unfamiliar, if you have not been keeping up with the Thundercats series of Dynamite, or if you just never really paid much attention to the Thundercats animated series from back in the 80s, this kind of feels almost like a retelling of Thundercats Ho, which was a kind of little brief multi-part episode that had introduced the new Thundercats characters like Pumira, Bengali, and Linkso. Well, this is what that is, only Ed Brisson is taking this a step further. He's also taking the time to introduce two new Thundercats, Neko, who is basically the Psy-wielding Thundercat with a really bad attitude. Remind you of anybody? A little bit of a hothead. And then also introducing Ligon, who is the more burly, more mountain of a person, but you could probably easily assume is a bit more of a gentle giant than anyone else, like maybe a little bit more measured. Of course, we're also going to have, as you would probably see on the cover, Pumira, who's kind of more of the nurturer and healer of the three new Thundercats that were introduced late in that series, as well as you have Bengali, who was kind of almost a lot more similar in attitude and tone to Lion-O, and then you had Linkso, who was kind of the elder statesman of the group, but his whole thing was that he was blind. In this, we get to see how all of that converges upon each other, and these new characters are now faced with being in the wake of the destruction of Thundera. And I think really in this case, you're almost kind of a little bit slightly ahead of the destruction of Thundera. Like, the whole point of this is that Linkso and Pumira and Bengali, their whole purpose was to deliver the Book of Omens to somewhere safe. And we know that that is not what happens, because as we saw in the earlier portions of Declan Shalvey's Thundercats series, the Book of Omens has been out in the wild. So as a matter of fact, it was just laying on Third Earth somewhere. And that's kind of the whole purpose of this story, is kind of show you not necessarily just how we get to that, but just what are these other Thundercats up to, and what is going on in the wider world of the Thundercats up to this point. I love to see it, and I think what's actually particularly of note here is how the usage of characters like Captain Shiner, who, I'm not gonna lie, not my favorite, Thundercats villain, not even a character I would say is particularly memorable, not in my eyes, but I feel like Ed has found a way to make this character, I'm not gonna go as far as say is important, but he finds a way to make this character look and feel threatening. And all at the same time while introducing a new Thundercats villain. We got new Thundercats. Well, we now have new Thundercats villains. There's a character by the name of Scorpius who shows up towards the end of this book. We don't know a whole heap of a lot about Scorpius. We don't learn anything about the character of this issue. We just see them, and we'll learn more once we get to issue 2. But I'm really excited for it, and I can't wait to see what Ed does with this. He's so far already got a pretty good track record for new Thundercats characters. Ed Brisson was the person who basically brought in Apex, who I think has been a pretty compelling character in the limited amount of times that we have seen him thus far. And I think that honestly with these new characters, Neko and Ligon, I'm pretty interested to know a little bit more about them. There's a lot of other really crazy stuff that happens here too. There's a sacrifice that happens in this issue that I was not expecting to see happen, and I don't think it's one that's going to stick, but I will just say that, man, if it does, that would be gangster. But we'll just have to wait and see what happens. Now that we've gotten to that part, we're actually going to get to what I feel is, well, I think the spicy part of the show, and that is fuck shit of the week. Fuck shit of the week this week is brought to you by silly little men who claim to be trying to expose the exploitation and abuse of elders, but also kind of doing it himself. For those who do not know, there's a guy running around right now on the internet by the name of John Bolerjack, who I'm gonna go into right now. This guy is, to my understanding, pretty cozy with crackheads like Nerdrotic. So I'm gonna go and say right now, this guy's probably on that Fox News bullshit. This guy basically is put up on Kickstarter, and I think at the time of this recording, the Kickstarter is like maybe 22% funded. It might be a little more than that now, but it's still got like some days to go on it. But basically, this is a Kickstarter for a documentary about the last days of Stan Lee, and his whole thing is this documentary is going to showcase how Stan Lee was abused and taken advantage of. But the funny thing about this documentary is that in a lot of the cases, the people that this guy is hinting at were abusing Stan Lee in his final days and taking advantage of him. He was sitting right there kikiing and cacaing and laughing with him. So like, I feel like this whole documentary is just a self-report. And not only that, it's asking for some strange things. This documentary is asking for $300,000. I think as this recording is, or at least last I checked, it was at $65,713. I actually don't think this is going to make the money that it is trying to make, but basically they're saying, oh, this money is going to allow us, the overwhelming majority of these funds that are going to be raised will support the production of our film, while our goal is the minimum we need to complete the project. Anything above that will go towards making the film that much better. That is vague as fuck. And I just want to interject real quick and just say that is vague as fuck. But also goes on to say that, we would love to compensate some of our crew who have been volunteering their time over the years. But I don't want to really focus on that so much, because I just want to take a look at the other things. Like it says, our production and post-production costs are, okay, paying your crew. Okay, that's cool. Feeding them. Also says equipment rental. Okay, I get that. Soundstage space. Okay, hold on, wait a minute. What you need soundstage space for, unless you're going to be doing like some they're going to be like reenactments in this? I feel like we don't need reenactments in this. Set construction. Okay, wait, what do you need set construction for? This is a documentary. This is a documentary. You don't need set construction. You know, what is going on here? What's going on? Like, are you trying to film some Zack Snyder shit? Like, what's going on here? Also, casting. Okay, wait a minute. What do you need casting for? You need casting. Wardrobe. You don't need wardrobe. This is documentary, pimp. Hair and make. Okay, first off, hair and makeup. Okay, I'm gonna give you just a little bit of the grace here with hair and makeup, and only because I get it. That's a thing. You got to make sure everybody's looking right. Editing makes way more sense. Music composition makes even more sense. Visual effects, I kind of get that. Color correction, I get that. Sound design, effects, mixing, I get all that. Song clearances, okay, I feel like you don't need any copyrighted music for this, but okay, go ahead. And then content clearances, I can get that too. And then the next one, and this is the one I find the most interesting, legal fees. Okay, everything else, all the other stuff I pointed out that I thought was kind of weird, that's the weirdest one. That is the weirdest one. What do you need legal fees for? Are you afraid that there's going to be some reprisal for you saying what you're saying? Or are you afraid that something you say is going to wind up, you're kind of floating back towards you? Like, is this that thing where like you're spraying the bear mace out into the wind and like it's flying back to you? Is that what because I feel like that's what you're expecting is going to happen. And I think that, I don't know about this, but I'll just say this. I don't trust this guy, this John Bolerjack guy. This guy seems sus as hell to me. I don't understand why anyone is going to give this guy money to tell a story that he could have told for free. This guy is quite literally selling Stan Lee's legacy. Like, he's using Stan Lee's name to do the exact same thing he's accusing other people of. Like, if you look right here, it says the events that are chronicled by filmmaker John Bolerjack, who became an assistant to Stan and a fixture of his inner circle. John gained unprecedented access and filmed everything he saw. What he uncovered was a thriving market where Stan's signatures and memorabilia were converted into huge piles of cash, and rival hucksters double-crossed each other to control Stan's fortune. After years of collecting this footage, he's ready to share this shockingly and truly heartbreaking story with the world. I'm gonna just put you on game, pimp. just share it, release it, because you are trying to make money off this. You're trying to, fundraise off of this. You're no better than the people that you're talking shit about or claiming to expose. You are trying to get rich off Stan Lee's name. And don't think, and if you're one of these people like, well, I mean, technically he's just trying to make a documentary. Documentaries cost money and documentaries also make money. And Stan Lee's name to this day still makes money. So yeah, no, this is fuck shit. Anyway, let's get back to what we were originally talking about. And this next one, I'm gonna try and keep this one a little bit short because there's not really a whole heap of a lot to say, but it was really fun to experience, and that's Silverhawks number 2. Silverhawks, and this is, man, Ed Brisson is on the list twice this week, I just realized. God damn. Marvel, y'all were wrong for canceling Ghost Rider. So this issue, we get to spend a lot of time with 2 particular characters. One from the, obviously more heroic Silverhawk side of things, and one from Monstar's gang side of things, and that is Bluegrass and Melodia. Now, these are 2 characters, and I want to make sure I'm clear when I say this. I don't remember these characters having very much in the way of meaningful interactions over the course of the Thundercats animated series. It's not to say these characters didn't talk or say anything to one another or interact with one another, but as far as like past history between the 2, I don't really remember much, if anything, about them in that regard. But in this, Ed Brisson is setting them up as being people who have worked together professionally and musically. And we discover that while we've already kind of known that Bluegrass was a former pilot and had run missions back during all the various wars, well, here we're discovering what he was doing before he became a Silverhawk. And he was performing music with Melodia. We also get to learn more about the moral compasses of both characters, and I do actually appreciate that, and this isn't much of a spoiler, but I do appreciate that Ed Brisson didn't try and like church anything up in regards to how these motivations affected these characters. Like, the main question is, has Bluegrass always been a do-gooder, and has Melodia always been an evil toe rag? And the answer to those questions are, I'm not gonna say unsurprising, but they're definitely handled in such a way that I was like, oh, I didn't expect it to go this way this quickly. And I'll just leave it at that. We also get to see justice for my nigga Hot Wing. I was happy to see it. I was quite pleased. We got justice for Hot Wing this issue, because one of the things that I have always lamented about the character of Hot Wing, well, other than his name being Hot Wing, you got the one black character in Silverhawk. What is his name? He's named after some fucking chicken. That's a stereotype, and I'm not blaming Ed for that. When I talked to him previously about his Silverhawk series before it even released, I asked him about it, and he said he couldn't change the name. So, and he said he would love to have changed the name, but he could not change the name. So it just is what it is. But one thing I do like about what Ed is doing in regards to the character Hot Wing is that he is introducing him earlier than what you might expect. Those who do not know, Silverhawks, the original animated series, Hot Wing didn't show up until they were about 21 episodes deep. And even after that, he was not in every episode, following that 21st episode. I think Silverhawks ran, for like about a roughly like 64, 65, maybe 68 episodes. Even though Hot Wing was introduced in episode 21, he did not show up very often after that. His appearances were few and far between. But what I do appreciate about what Ed has said and what he's told me about this is that he plans to use Hot Wing. And he told me he was going to introduce him early, but he was also wanting to use him more often. And I am perfectly fine with that. I love to see it. We also get to see some other characters like Poker Face and Mumbo Jumbo, who I think are characters that most people who are fans of the Silverhawks, you're going to know who they are. I think that Ed's doing a fantastic job here telling the story, showcasing how the band is coming together. The Silverhawks they're literally just converging on each other. We get to spend a little bit of time with Quicksilver in this too, so it's not like he's forgotten after that bombshell cliffhanger from the first issue. So like I said, we know what Quicksilver's up to. He's getting ready to become the leader of the Silverhawks. We see that Hot Wing and Bluegrass, they're not necessarily heading to the Silverhawks, but we know just based on their adventures, both separate and together, that that's the place they're gonna wind up being, and showcasing that they already kind of had a history with one another, which is something that I always felt was kind of funny in the original anime series. No one knew who Hot Wing was. He just kind of showed up and they was like, oh snap, Hot Wing. So yeah. So I'm happy to see it. I think, yeah, Ed's doing a fantastic job with this book. Next up is going to be Absolute Flash #1. Man, oh man, I've had to be quiet about this book for well over a month and maybe even longer than that. And I can finally talk about it. Oh my God. Woo! Absolute Flash. Absolute banger is what this title should be called, or like absolute fire is, what it probably would make more sense to call it. But yeah, this book is great. The DC Absolute universe has already been kind of dark and foreboding and has showcased a lot of strange and unusual adaptations of characters that we're already very familiar with. In this case, we are coming up on a Flash who is a Flash we've seen before. Matter of fact, he is a Flash that we have been keeping up with a lot recently, as a matter of fact. That's Wally West. The title of this, it's obviously Absolute Flash, but the title of the story is Of Two Worlds. So I'm pretty sure we're gonna see some multiverse shenanigans, or maybe even more than one Flash. We'll have to wait and see. But I will just say this: while yes, Barry Allen is a part of the story, as is Wally West, they're changing up the dynamic here. Whereas in the Earth Prime and New Earth continuity, Barry Allen was the Flash before Wally West, and Wally West got powers, in pretty much the exact same fashion. Lightning literally struck twice in the exact same place to make Wally West the Flash in the main DC continuity. In this universe, is different. Barry is not already the Flash, at least not as far as we know. He just seems to be a regular dude. And Wally West is not grown or anything like that. He's actually, so far, the youngest hero in the DC Absolute universe. He is only 15 years old at the start of this story. And he's going through some stuff. Like, he's already dealing with, losses, deaths in the family, being a teenager and having a father who is not very good at being a parent to a child who has lost a parent. No differently. I mean, not to say that, Wally's dad isn't, welcome to have, his own issues with grief, but it's one of those things that, like, really neither one of them is handling it particularly well, but ultimately the shenanigans between them lead to Wally becoming friends with Barry, and in a way not too dissimilar from how it works out in the comics, where Wally is hanging out with Barry and then boom, lightning flashes and he is struck and now he has superpowers. It's kind of along those same lines, just the main difference is Barry's not Flash, as far as we know. Like, there's supposed to be something going on later where the Absolute Universe books are going to start kind of crossing over on one another, which I'm all here for. I think it's going to be great. And I already have it on good authority that, the Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman books are going to be more focus of the crossover, since Flash, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter are only just now. Well, Flash getting started this week, Absolute Martian Manhunter next week, and then Absolute Green Lantern being the week after that. So, those books won't really have as firm a footing on that crossover as maybe some of the other books that have, already been established. But man, I would not be surprised if the Barry Allen that we are seeing is not Wally's Barry Allen, if that makes any sense. I don't know. I'm just spitball. I'm throwing some bullshit out there. This is literally just a half-court shot that is no chance of probably switching. It might not even hit the backboard. But what I love about this is we get a new take on the rogues in this, which I thought was pretty cool. They're not being played up as thieves the way the rogues usually are. The characters in question are going to be Captain Cold, a more smooth and debonair version of Captain Cold, mind you, and with the same fashionable glasses, no less. We get to see a Captain Boomerang, and this is actually Digger Harkness version of Captain Boomerang, a less flamboyant clothing wearing version of Captain Boomerang, if ever there was one, and also a way more deadly serious one. We also get to see Golden Glider, who I actually thought this was interesting. Golden Glider is being portrayed as, under normal circumstances, is the sister of Captain Cold. But in this universe, we don't really know exactly how all that works out, but we do know that she does appear to be of a far darker skin complexion than Captain Cold. We'll have to wait and see on this one, but I'm curious to know, like, if they're siblings or if there's something else going on, or they, like, I don't know what this is. We also get to see Trickster, and this time, this version of Trickster is a woman. We don't really know much more about Trickster in this universe other than that. And the real thing is that they're after Wally West because of the powers that he has, and they think that he is a danger. Now, whether or not the rogues here are actual good guys or if they're bad guys, working for somebody else, it's difficult to say. But in this, the way that Wally becomes Flash is so terrifying that, yeah, it's not even funny. Yeah, like, it's kind of wild. And I like how it's done. I like, the way this is all set up. And we also get a really awesome reveal at the end. And yeah, it's very obvious once you kind of look at it. You can tell who the villain is that they're teeing up Wally West to deal with. And I love it. I really like it. I like that they're doing this. And I like the fact that the rogues actually seem, and even this, this villain, I feel like in this universe, they're actually going out of their way to make these characters seem like more of a threat. The rogues in the main continuity are jokes at best by this point. These are characters that, whether it's Wally or Barry, they can clap these dudes up like that. These versions of the rogues, I can't wait to see more of. Now let's get to our next part, and it's going to be the Indie Comics Corner. Now, this one actually had a difficult time, trying to, figure out what I wanted to showcase this go around, but just know I decided that I wanted to showcase this little book called Teflon Funk. This is one I actually picked up recently. I actually talked about it on the Blerd Cave not too terribly long ago. If you were to say that you thought Teflon Funk sounded like it probably had some inspiration from Cowboy Bebop, you'd be right. This book is about a young teenage girl by the name of Inez, as well as a 6-foot Afro-sporting Gabriel, a cop by the name of Cameron, and a badass bartender by the name of Giselle, and this new drug that crops up in their neighborhood and how they tackle it. This is a really cool story that, yes, it has a lot in common with Cowboy Bebop. I would even go as far as to say even some inspirations from Samurai Champloo. It is done in a manga style format. It's an all black and white comic, and it even has some pretty cool like eye catchers and bumpers in between each chapter of the story. And yeah, it's awesome, and it has some really good back matter too that I always love to see in books like these. You usually don't get them in mangas and trades and stuff. That you usually have to get like omnibus collections to get that sort of stuff. This one, they actually have it all in here. I highly recommend it. And yeah, that's the Indie Comics Corner. Okay, so now that the Indie Comics Corner is done, let's get to our final entry, and that's going to be the Power Fantasy number 7. I have been repeatedly saying over and over again since Kieran Gillen left Marvel and doing all the X-Men stuff to go do his own thing in the creator space at Image Comics, the moment that he showed off the first little snippets of the Power Fantasy, I could immediately tell that that man kept his best work in his back pocket while he was giving us all those amazing comics like Immortal X-Men. Because honestly, this story I feel like is kind of what Immortal X-Men seemed like it was being promised to be. But for those who have not been keeping up, it's about a world where superpowers are treated like nuclear armaments. And there are people who exist in this world called atomics. These people literally have the power of a nuclear bomb just brimming in them in some way, shape, form, or fashion. And we've seen these characters kind of holding court with each other, working together, and in a lot of ways working against each other more recently. And we actually get to jump back to Valentina, who is presumably the most powerful of all the atomics. And what ends up happening is she is recounting to us the story of the second Summer of Love. This is something that has been popping up over and over and over again over the course of the past 6 issues. The second Summer of Love is often brought up, and when it is, no one ever really seems particularly happy about it for it to be something referred to as the Summer of Love. Now, if you're thinking, oh, does this have anything to do with the Summer of Love in, the 1960s, more specifically 1967? Yeah, it's the same thing, only under different circumstances. While the original Summer of Love was an instance that took place in San Francisco and was largely a convergence of hippies and drugs and music and wild parties, debauchery and free love and all the other, stuff. Well, that was that. This was that too, but under what could have potentially have been alien influence. So yes, that's what's going on. I don't even want to say any more than that. I mean, because when we see what's going on with the second Summer of Love, the whole thing is that, yeah, we already know that something bad's going to happen. We've already seen it talked about that something bad was going to happen, that bad things were going to happen for everybody involved. And that's something that Valentina takes incredibly personally. She seems very upset about it, very sad about it. There's other characters. Isabella's another character who, you know, she's not directly involved in the proceedings as far as Valentina's recount of it, but she does have something to say about it as well. Not as much as Valentina, obviously, but I do like that this book largely focuses on what they have to say as a whole, and also kind of setting up, you know, everything going on with the Magus and, you know, the Heavy and Etienne, and, you know, how they're all kind of playing different sides. And but also more specifically, the real meat of this is how the second Summer of Love affected some of the other characters, specifically Valentina and Isabella, and how that has also affected people in their orbit, and why it's such a terrible memory for a lot of people, why it's a shameful memory for a lot of people in that respect. And also we get a nice little reveal towards the end, one that I was quite fond of actually, is something at the very end of the book where we're basically told that we're going to learn a lot more about the character Eliza. She is, I would say, probably the one character who's not really been terribly delved into as of late. We've had time with the Magus, we've had time with Valentina, we've had time with Etienne. Eliza is the one that, yeah, we really have not spent any time with whatsoever, outside of whenever she's around other characters. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That, like I said, Power Fantasy is probably one of the best books out right now. It shouldn't even be a surprise to anybody how much I love this book. The main reason I say it shouldn't be very surprising is that the Power Fantasy was the winner of Earth's Mightiest Comic for last year's The Blerd Awards. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's just that good. There is no question. This book has consistently been good every single time it is released, even when it has a slow issue, because it is a little bit of a slow burn book. Even when it's had a little bit of a slow issue, it's still pretty lit. Like, even, and that's saying a lot, when even a slow issue can, you know, wind up being a lit issue. So yeah, I'll just, that's all I really got to say about that. Last, before we get out of here, I do want to do a little quick pull box report. I don't really have a whole heap of a lot to recommend. Just gonna kind of give a friendly reminder that if you have not already added Absolute Flash to your pull box, well, after this video, if you haven't done it, I can't help you, but you still have some time to add you know, stuff like Absolute Green Lantern to your pull box. Highly recommend that. If you've not already done so, make sure that you add the Power Company Recharged to your pull box. I will also say, just because some of the recent discourse has come up about Exceptional X-Men, a book that has been revealed that it is going to go past issue 10. Highly unusual for Eve L. Ewing to be on a book that long, but I will say I'm happy to see it because I really love her as a writer, so I want to see more of this. If you have not done so, make sure you put Exceptional X-Men in your pull box, because it sounds like she's willing to keep writing this book for as long as she has a story for it. So let's make sure that we get that to happen. And also, if you have not already done so, make sure you're checking out the Energon universe. Energon universe needs to be in your pull box. If you are a Transformers fan of any magnitude, you need to have at least Transformers in your pull box. The series has been lit. Not one bad issue has come out. I'm also going to say G.I. Joe came out this week, also fire issue. I will say the G.I. Joe side of things is not as lit to me as the Transformers side. I think, like, in the order of things, in the hierarchy, it's like Transformers, Void Rivals, G.I. Joe, and whatever other G.I. Joe books. But that's just to say that should tell you how good Void Rivals and Transformers are, because G.I. Joe ain't no slouch. That is the best comics this week, and thank you all for watching this. You know, I've been getting some really good feedback from you guys, so like I said, keep leaving feedback. Make sure you keep sharing this. I'm going to be listening out and you know, taking into account a lot of the things y'all are saying. I hope you guys enjoy this format. It's something I enjoy doing. It takes a little bit longer to set up, but ultimately just really frees me up to do other stuff. So yeah, we'll be doing that. I think that's going to be the move going forward. I think that's it. Yeah, y'all tell me if you think I'm wrong. That said, thank you all for hanging out. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell if you have not done so already, so you don't miss more videos like these. Also, make sure you hit that like button as well, because, you know, hey, likes are free and doesn't cost anything. And if you're here at this point and you still haven't clicked the like button, I can't help you. This is crazy. I don't know what to do with this. But anyway, thank you all so much. I'll see you all next time. We out of here. Peace.